Hello, I'm Xavier Burden, and I'm here with Supreme Court Justice Xavier Burden. Hello, Xavier Burden. Hello, Xavier Burden. So, Justice Burden, what can you tell us about the Supreme Court case, the United States versus Nixon? Well, following the break-in of the Democratic National Committee offices in 1972, 5 burglars were arrested, along with one of President Nixon's aides and an attorney for the committee to re-elect the president. Well, in 1973, the United States Senate began an investigation that uncovered various members of the Nixon administration were also involved in the break-in, and that Nixon had been recording all of his conversations with his advisors. Prosecutors attempted to subpoena the tapes, but Nixon refused. He would later release some of the tapes, but only parts of them because others had been erased. Well, what did the Supreme Court rule? The defense argued that separation of powers mentioned in the Constitution deemed it acceptable for President Nixon to withhold the complete tapes from the judicial branch, also saying that the issue should be resolved by the executive branch. Prosecutors argued that President Nixon's right to claim executive privilege was not an absolute one, and it didn't apply when being used to keep evidence from being used in a criminal trial. The Supreme Court shared this viewpoint and unanimously voted that President Nixon had to produce the tapes in their entirety. This ruling basically said the president isn't above the law and he can't withhold evidence simply because he is the president. Following this ruling in 1974, President Nixon would become the first president to resign ever from office rather than being impeached. Well, that is some pretty serious stuff there. Yes, it is. So I'm sure you have some personal opinions about the case. So what were they? I totally agree with the court's ruling. I don't think there is any reason the president should be able to get away with crimes simply because of executive privilege. The Fifth Amendment of the Constitution says that everyone has the right to due process, but that cannot be achieved if someone withholds evidence. Technically, Nixon was obstructing justice by trying to keep the tapes, which in itself is a crime. Well, thank you, Justice Burden, and we look forward to speaking with you again in the near future. Anytime.